In my latest video, I finished the geisha project, and they turned out absolutely beautiful. But when I look at her now, I can't help but think she looks a little lonely. So in this video, she's getting a companion, a samurai. Hello everyone and welcome to my new project. For this project I picked another very special motif, a samurai. The style probably looks familiar. Since I planned the samurai as a counterpart to the geisha, I wanted to keep the style as close as possible. If you haven't seen a geisha video yet, make sure to check it out. The problem with the samurai was, I'm not exactly great at drawing people, and I couldn't find a fitting reference image online either, so I asked an AI to create a samurai in a similar style to the geisha. And as you can see here, I tried that several times. Each image on its own was pretty good, but always had little mistakes. Unfortunately, the AI never gave me a perfect result. So in the end I combined several of the images in Photoshop to create the final samurai. The AI only gave me the general direction. A lot of the details I had to redo myself. At first glance, AI images can look really impressive, but the longer you look, the more little details you start to notice that just don't quite make sense. I hope it's okay for you guys that I'm using an AI image here as a reference. It really helped me get the style right. Let's dive into the actual project. As always, I'm starting with the most difficult and most important part, the face. For the face, I'm using European Maple, and for the facial contours, I'm using black dyed tulip wood veneer. I coated the back of both veneers with wood glue beforehand. That way, they don't break as easily and are easier to work with. Before cutting out the face, the position of the template is especially important. The template itself is simply a printed piece of paper. As you can see here in the light, the maple veneer has quite a lot of grain. For the face, I'm choosing an area that's as smooth and even as possible, with very little grain. Since the veneer is pretty thin, I can just hold it up the light and line up the template exactly where I want it. Once the template is fixed, I start cutting out the facial features. Let's begin with the left eye. First I score the outline of the eye into the maple veneer. Then I carefully lift up the template, making sure it doesn't shift out of place. Here you can see the scored outline of the eye. You can already see the final shape pretty clearly. Next I cut it out completely. This step really needs a steady hand. And here's the finished cutout hole. The edges came out nice and clean. After that I placed the black tulip wood veneer behind it. And scored the outline of the eye there as well. That way the exact shape is transferred onto the tulip wood. Then I cut that piece out too. Here I don't have to worry too much if I cut slightly beyond the contour. If everything is done precisely, it should fit perfectly into the maple veneer. With a little bit of pressure here and there, it snaps right into place. Finally I glue everything down with some wood glue, and that's the first eye done. For the other part of the face I'm doing the exact same thing. Since filming this super delicate work is pretty tricky, I will show you the remaining steps with photos instead. That way you can still see exactly how I build it, piece by piece. Otherwise you probably only see my fingers in front of the veneer anyway. And here's the finished face. The intense gaze turned out really well. Look at how accurately the facial features came out. It's the little details that really make the difference. Now let's move on to the hair and the beard. Both are also made from black dyed tulip wood veneer. To make the hair structure more realistic, I divided it into separate strands. You can see it here. The green lines split up the segments, and the red lines show the direction of the wood grain. I'm approaching the hair in the same way as the face. First I cut a shape out of the maple veneer, and then fill it in with the black tulip wood. This way I can follow the template very precisely, without anything shifting out of place. Sure, it does waste a little bit of maple veneer, but it makes the process a lot easier and keeps the whole head much more accurate. For the lighter accent in the hair, I'm using great dyed birch eye maple veneer. It adds a really nice contrast. The headband is made from movie glue veneer, the same wood I use for the geisha's hair accessory. And here's the finished head. It turned out really well. At first I was worried that the tilted perspective of the head might cause problems, but no, the facial expression and everything else came out just right. I intentionally left the neck a bit longer for now. I will adjust that later. By the way, the spots you see on the face are just wood glue. They will disappear after the final sanding, and then everything will look much cleaner. Next up is the kimono. For the main fabric, I'm using black dyed tulip wood veneer. The fine accent lines are done with great dyed tulip wood. For the belt, I choose king wood. It should give a nice contrast and make the kimono look a bit more refined. I've divided the kimono into several parts, but I will put together later. You can see how I split it up. The left and right side of the kimono are each done separately, and the hands in the lower sections are cut out on their own as well. The green line shows the separations, and as always, the red lines mark the direction of the wood grain. To transfer the pieces onto the veneer, I tap the template onto the wood. Then I carefully score all the outlines before cutting the parts out completely. Here's the first cut out piece. You can already see the scored fold lines in the veneer quite clearly. Next I cut out the scored fold lines and fill them in with great dyed tulip wood veneer. That creates a clear contrast and really makes the folds stand out. And here's the first completed section. For the rest of the kimono, I follow the exact same process. The belt is made from king wood, just like on the geisha. For the arms and hands, I'm using marble veneer again. Now we've pretty much got everything. Only the katana is missing. I spent a long time thinking about how to do it. It definitely needs to stand out from the black kimono. Since most katana handles are wrapped with some kind of cord, I came up with the following plan. I want to represent the braided handles using different veneers. For that, I'm using limber veneer soaked in vinegar and smoked oak. These two woods should give a nice contrast to the black kimono. To cut the stripes, I use millimeter craft paper as a guide. I taped it to the veneer and cut 1 mm wide stripes from it. Here you can see the finished stripes. Then I arrange the stripes alternately. To make them easier to cut later, I glue them together at the end. So I basically built my own little custom veneer. The rest of the work was the same as always. I cut the individual parts following the template and assembled them. The plate is made from smoked eucalyptus, so it also clearly stands apart from the kimono. And here's the finished katana. I really like how the handle turned out. Now we just need to assemble the whole samurai. I align all the parts of the template and fix them with tape. Then I trim the pieces so they fit together. The advantage of this method is that I can stay flexible with the positioning. I wasn't entirely sure if I want the arms, hands and katana to be exactly the same as in the template. I worked through it step by step for every piece, until the samurai is fully finished. And here's the finished samurai. That means we've made it to the hardest part. Now that everything is assembled, you can already see how big he actually is. For the sleeves, I rotate the crane on the inner parts. That gives the whole piece a lot more depth. I think he already looks really good as he is. All the work was definitely worth it. And the katana in particular turned out amazing. The last thing missing now is the background. For this I'm using, as mentioned at the start, grey sand birch, patuk and black dyed tulip wood veneer. To position the bamboo correctly, I'm using my printed paper template, just like I did with the face. First I cut out a hole for the dark shadow, then fill it with black tulip wood veneer. After that I do the same for the red bamboo, made from patuk. Since I am working from the back to the front, first black then red, the edges turn out nice and clean. The process is always the same for the whole background, which is why I'm showing you these time-consuming steps again with photos. And here's the finished background. The bamboo fits in really well and gives the picture much more depth. The combination of black, red and grey makes the contrast even stronger. Alright, the only thing left to do now is to place the samurai into the background. To get the exact position right, I'm using my paper template again. Since I keep the samurai as a whole piece, I can perfectly align him with the bamboo background. I fold the template once down the middle and position the samurai using the left half as a guide. Then I fix the right side in place. After that, I remove the paper template completely and secure the left side as well. Here you can see the samurai in his final position. Next, I carefully trace the outline into the background. This part really has to be precise. Any mistake would be difficult to fix and would stand out immediately in the final piece. Here you can see the scored outline in the background. It's not super visible on camera, but in the light you can see it quite well. Now I cut the samurai's shape completely from the background. I'm taking my time here to make sure the edges came out as clean as possible. Here's the finished cutout in the background. And now comes the exciting part. Will the samurai fit perfectly into the opening? And here it is, the finished samurai with the background. I glue everything down so nothing can shift anymore. And with that, the samurai is finally completed. What a project. I'm really happy with how it turned out so far. Now we just need to press, sand and finish the samurai. I'm starting with my usual prep step before pressing. First I cover the front side with veneer tape. This keeps everything nicely in place until it's pressed. On the back side I remove the masking tape so the wood is free and can bond cleanly during pressing. Now everything's ready for pressing. To make sure no gaps open up later, I double check that everything lies perfectly flat. I press the samurai onto a baseboard and veneer the backside with birch at the same time. Then it stays in the press overnight so the glue can fully cure. After pressing, I remove the veneer tape again. A bit of water softens the glue and it comes off easily. And this is how the piece looks now, still a bit rough, but you can already see the samurai really starting to take shape. Before I start sanding, I cut the piece down to its final size and veneer the outer edges. Then it's time for sanding and finishing. So, here's my finished samurai. You think he'd be easy to make, since I already had some experience from the geisha project. But nope, I actually found the samurai much more difficult and complex than the geisha. The face, especially with that slightly turned perspective and the beard, was a real challenge. The individual hair sections I created aren't as visible anymore after sanding. The black veneer hides a lot of that. But in the end it was all worth it. He gave off this calm, powerful sense of determination, exactly what I wanted. The kimono turned out great too. I especially love the belt. The crane fits perfectly. The sleeves and hands also came out really nice. I spent a lot of time figuring out how to get the perspective of the hands right. But in the end it all worked out. Strong like a warrior's, yet still finely detailed. The katana really blew me away after sanding and finishing. I honestly had no idea how light or dark it would turn out, since I had never worked with smoked eucalyptus before, but it turned out perfectly. That subtle color gradient in the blade and the pattern on the handle, I had a lot of ideas for it, but this one was definitely the best solution. The bamboo background adds a ton of depth to the whole piece, especially the dark shadow. It really makes a difference. All in all, I'm really happy with the result. The samurai fits perfectly with the geisha, and I think once they are hanging next to each other on the wall, it's going to look amazing. It was a lot of work, but totally worth it. I hope you like the finished piece as much as I do. If you want to see more projects like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. The next project will probably be something a bit more geometric. I need some straight lines again. If you have any questions or ideas for future projects, let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to see what else can be built with veneer, paint and a bit of creativity, stay tuned. There's a lot more to come.